today's 2019 playoff preview.
The second season is here. We break down and predict all 8 first-round series.
Is Utah equipped for a rematch with Houston? Will Portland suffer another quick exit? Is Denver ripe for an upset at the hands of San Antonio?
And out east, we debate if any lower seeds can pull off an upset, or are we looking at chalk?
The Starters playoff preview starts now!
Good evening, Sweet World, and welcome to the Starters, presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey. I'm J.E. Skeets, that's Tass Mellis, he's the Aussie Lee Ellis, and down yonder, that's the bearded one, that's Trey Kirby. Hey-yo! Hey-yo! Thanks for joining us so much for our annual playoff preview show where we lock in our predictions when it comes to the first round of the playoffs. We ask you to do the same on Twitter, hashtag the Starters with your picks. Let's get right into it, guys. I'll start in the Western Conference, the 1-8 matchup. It's the Warriors versus the Clippers. Dubs took the season series 3-1, and you see how it breaks down there. Their win-loss record, their offensive rating rank, defensive rating rank. We'll do this with all of these series. Let's get right to our predictions, and then we'll talk about it. No surprise, everybody taking the Warriors. Tass says Warriors getting the brooms out, going to sweep. Everybody else giving the Clippers a game.
I hope the Clippers get a game, but as we know, it's going to be a short series.
Yep.
When Steve Kerr was asked about his initial reaction to them getting the Clippers, his first thing that he said was, it's a good series for us geographically, because Los Angeles is close. Then he quickly went on to say, but we have to be worried about their bench, and I think that is the Clippers' advantage in this series. They legitimately do have one with Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell coming off the bench.
And they've been overlooked all season long, the Clippers. Really, when they made that big trade, everyone thought, well, that's it for the end of the season for the Clippers. But they've fought back and they've showed some resiliency. They're a pretty tough, veteran-led team. So I don't think it's going to be the Warriors are just going to blow them off the
You think
court.
we'll have sort of competitive games up until the half,
definitely.
and then the third quarter, the Warriors turn it on? I mean,
Well, I feel that this is actually a pretty good test for the Warriors. They get in there and they go up against a team of, good, hard veterans who are well coached by Doc Rivers. But ultimately, it comes down to the talent and the depth that the Warriors have over the Clippers.
Yeah, and the talent advantage is actually why I'm giving the Clippers a game, because I imagine there'll be a game where Golden State doesn't play to their full capacity, and the Clippers, I think, will play to their full capacity every single game. They've had effort out the wazoo from the beginning of the season up until the playoffs. I imagine that will continue in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'm going to be watching in this series is how many three-pointers DeMarcus Cousins takes and then makes, because I think Doc Rivers, what we've seen when they've played the Warriors and Cousins has been out there, they pick their poison when it comes to this team, and they go, well, we're going to double and give a lot of attention to Curry and Clay and Durant. Hey, Cousins, go ahead, shoot him. And he's put them up. Attempted 11 threes in the 2 games that he played against the Clippers. But, I mean, you have no choice when you're Doc Rivers and the Clippers. You got to decide on somebody to let it go. And I think they're going to let Cousins, and rightfully so, when you're picked from those other greatest shooters of all time. So something to watch.
Doc Rivers should call him Boogie as well, because he doesn't want to be
called that. Yeah. By the way, if you don't want to be called Boogie, don't tell everyone you don't want to be called Boogie. That's the worst thing you can do. All right, our next series, it's the Nuggets and Spurs, 2-7 matchup. Nuggets obviously had a great year. They were flirting with the number 1 seed all season long. Top 10, both offensively and defensively. Spurs, still solid on the offensive end of the floor. So let's get to the predictions. Ooh, a little difference here. We got myself and Trey taking Nuggets in 6. Lee likes a very long series, Nuggets in 7. And Tass going with, I guess we can call it an upset, 2-7.
Oh, it's a huge upset.
Taking the Spurs in 6. But there seem to be a lot of people out there backing the Spurs. Mm-hmm. Why? Is that because of playoff experience?
That's the big one. I think if there is one playoff series that is ripe for a little upset, it's the oldies versus the youngies here. Yeah. The Nuggets, most of these guys, first time in the postseason. I don't like the fact that Nikola Jokic hasn't been playing to his capabilities lately. He's had a 2 and a 10-point game in his last 5 games, while the Spurs are on fire, 15-5 in their last 20. So, old team playing well, very confident. The Nuggets, I don't think, are that confident going up against LaMarcus Aldridge. I think Jokic has got a good matchup there in the Spurs' eyes with LaMarcus Aldridge, who is having his best season as a San Antonio Spur. He's peaking right now. He's their number 1 option. It just feels like all the chips may fall in perfectly for the Spurs. The Nuggets are definitely the better team, but LA is feeling it right now. The guy is just money. So I think, when you're looking at the best player like Nikola Jokic for the Nuggets, if he's neutralized, then I kind of lean Spurs. I think the guards are going to play a big factor for the Nuggets.
And the guards is a huge question for the Nuggets because, like you're saying, Tass, there's not a lot of playoff experience in Denver. The Spurs, are going to be ready to play, but we're getting a lot of good seasons from guys like Malik Beasley, Monte Morris, Jamal Murray. Will Barton, Gary Harris, these are all guys who haven't really tasted the playoffs at all yet. How do they deal with the pressure of having to make plays every single time down the court, having to be ready every single possession? Because you know the Spurs are going to be, and that even filters down to Jokic too. We've seen him get a little unnerved from some bad calls, things going not the way he would like it. He gets super frustrated. He's been kicked out of a few games. How's he going to keep his head when things get really tense in the postseason?
Both these teams are good at home, but they both are not as good on the road. And I think this is where it does help Denver that they have home court advantage, because we know that that advantage they have in the Pepsi Center is probably more so than any other team just because of the altitude. So the Spurs have to come in, a couple of those older legs, maybe that does catch up with them. But I really think that for the Denver Nuggets, those younger guys, you don't know what you don't know. So they haven't been there before, so they haven't had any real playoff heartbreak either. So maybe that helps them in a way.
We will see. Again, let's hear from you guys on Twitter. Hashtag the starters. Who do you like in both of those series? We got a ton still to go here when we come back. We'll continue to preview the Western Conference matchups, including a Rockets-Jazz rematch. Getting this rematch early this year. Don't go anywhere.
The Starters is presented by Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 and Tennessee Honey.
Back with the starters, let's get into it. It being the Blazers-Thunder 3-6 matchup in the West. You see the breakdown there, their records, their offensive and defensive ratings. Thunder took care of business during the regular season, swept them. Here's our predictions. Everybody taking OKC as the lower seed in this. Lee, you changed your pick.
Yep.
We got some 5s and 6s on the board. You were originally a Thunder and 5 man. On the Drop podcast, you've bumped it up to Thunder and 6. What changed in the last 24 hours?
Well, Paul George was asked about his availability today, and he wasn't really committal. Neither was Billy Donovan. I think he will play, but it sounds like he won't be 100% if he does. And I think that's huge for OKC because Paul George has been their best player all season long.
And he cooked the Blazers.
Absolutely.
He's
They have no
averaged
matchup.
38.
Absolutely. And then defensively as well, he's outstanding. So that's why I think if he doesn't play or if he is in some way hobbled, then I think at least the Blazers are a better chance there. But the real question for this series is, will Enes Kanter even see the floor? Because for Portland, he's kind of the replacement for Nurkic since he went down. But we know offensively he's okay, but defensively he's going to get destroyed.
Just put him in a pick and roll.
Billy Donovan said it a couple of
Yeah.
years ago. You can't play Kanter. So if he is out on the floor, expect OKC to really go at him.
Yeah, no doubt the Thunder are going to attack him offensively, but also Kanter should have to play a big role for the Blazers because we saw last year in the playoffs, Damian Lillard kept getting trapped. The Thunder are going to be able to trap him on pick and rolls, and then is Enes Kanter able to make the plays that Yusuf Nurkic was? He's a decent passer, Kanter is, but he's not quite as willing as Yusuf Nurkic, so I think that's going to be, that center spot's going to be a huge disadvantage for Portland.
It's hard to pick the Thunder in 5 games because that means they're winning 2 times, at the very least, in Portland.
Yeah.
That being said, Portland has lost 10 straight playoff games. The template is there. Get the ball out of Dame Lillard's hands. Now they don't have Yusuf Nurkic, who's going to make plays offensively and defensively because if Enes Kanter's out there offensively, he can make things happen. But I just feel terrible for C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard in this scenario here. C.J.'s not 100% either.
Definitely doesn't help.
And, Damian Lillard, does this sort of get him another mulligan into next season? Do people just say, well, even if he doesn't get out of this first round, they were banged up. The story continues for Damian Lillard's Portland Trailblazers here, it seems like.
Or if the Blazers lose again in the first round, do we see what happened similarly to the Raptors, where it's like, well, we got to blow up this backcourt. We got to move on from our coach, so maybe Stotts is out. Or you're right. Or do they say, look, we were banged up, Nurkic was gone, McCollum's injured, and we'll just run it back. Yeah, very, very interesting. But we're all taking the Jazz in this one. Moving on to our final Western Conference series. Maybe on paper, the most exciting looking series. These are 2 of the best teams in the league right now, in the Rockets and the Jazz. They're going to play each other in the 4 or 5 spot. We'll start in Houston. Guys, it's one of the best offenses versus one of the best defenses. So who's everybody have? Everybody's taking the better offense. The Rockets in a very tight series. 3 of us saying Rockets in 7, Trey saying Rockets in 6. What are you guys looking at in particular when it comes to this series?
I think it's going to be interesting to see how Rudy Gobert plays against the Houston Rockets offense because we saw last year Chris Paul was just basically automatic coming off the pick and roll. Rudy would drop back, and there was a 15-footer for Chris Paul, and that's his shot, really. James Harden, we know, has been on fire all year. There's going to be a lot of pick and roll basketball from the Rockets. Is Rudy Gobert able to hang out on the perimeter as a switch? Is his teammates able to stick to the corner shooters for threes? There's a lot of concern for the Jazz defensively. I think they'll hopefully have it a little bit better sorted out than they did last year. Rudy seems a little bit more comfortable on the perimeter, but they're going to be under stress.
If I'm the Rockets, I'd try to get Gobert into foul trouble early just to get him off the floor, because that rim protection is just so important for Utah, because Houston loves to roll in there and get Capella going with a couple of those lobs. Favors has been good actually defending the rim as well, but Gobert is such a big difference. But if I'm the Jazz, I just try to double James Harden every time. Don't let him ISO. Just get the ball to someone else. Let those other guys beat you, because if someone else is shooting, then James Harden doesn't have the ball and he doesn't get the offense flowing. So,
but that's the funny part. They played last year, and it was Chris Paul.
Right.
It was really
you
the
know
one
what? I'd still take that over James Harden going for 45 in a game, and just getting hot and getting cooking and getting those threes raining down. I think you have to find some way to disrupt that offensive flow for Houston.
Yeah, they had the matchup last year, and then in the 4 matchups this year, the Jazz actually slowed the Rockets' offense down a lot. They were the best team against the Rockets amongst Western Conference teams. That being said, Chris Paul's that X factor. He could go off big time.
Well, he went off for 40 in one of the games.
Well,
last
so if
year.
you're the Jazz, then whoever Chris Paul is defending, make him run around, test out those hamstrings, because we know that has been his problem in years, where he gets into the playoffs and sometimes his body lets him down. So make him work on the defensive end, run him around a little bit.
Again, I can't believe that one of these teams, one of these really, really good basketball teams, is going to lose in the first round. Somebody has to. But a huge part with the Jazz, too, how healthy is Ricky Rubio? How is that quad? And Derek Favors was banged up at the end of the season, too. Is he good to go? Because they need all of these guys. They need Ingles performing. They need Korver healthy. He was a little banged up.
Don't worry about Ingles. He'll
too.
take care of business.
All right, the Aussie says the other Aussie's fine. But it's going to be a tight series. Agree or disagree, let us know on Twitter, #TheStarters. When we come back, we'll turn our attention to the Eastern Conference and debate whether the Bucks bring out the brooms versus the banged-up Pistons.
Here we go, Bucks.
All right, we've done the Western Conference. Let's look at the Eastern Conference side of the playoff bracket. Bucks Pistons, the 1-8 matchup. Milwaukee, the only team to win 60 games this year. Took care of the regular season series, swept Detroit. Our predictions, keep the brooms out.
Wow.
Everybody, wow, this is rare for us. Everybody saying Bucks in 4. I think a big part with this, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth here, but it is, what is the status of Blake Griffin's knee? I mean, how bad is it? He's missed some games near the end, and if he can't play, then they have no chance at all.
Yeah, even if he does play, the Bucks handled them pretty easily this season. They're just a better team. They're a better defensive team. Offensively, they've got the best player, probably the MVP of the league, the Milwaukee Bucks. I really think Detroit have battled well this season, have been good, but they're just not in the same ballpark as Milwaukee. So I really think they're going to struggle to even keep this series close.
Well, without Blake, it's not even an 8-seed worthy team, and he's just not feeling right whatsoever. Wednesday, he didn't play in a must-win game to make the playoffs. They won. That's why they're here. On Tuesday, he tweaked that knee in warm-ups. You're tweaking knees in warm-ups and sitting out, having to pull yourself from games. You're not right. It's just highly, highly unlikely
and
he's
he is
anywhere
their
close
offense.
to it. Yeah, he's everything for that team. So it's hard to even analyze this series, I would say.
I think the biggest hope for the Pistons is that maybe the Bucks struggle on the road. We saw that last year in the playoffs. They had trouble playing in Boston. The team is different, though, this year. They seem a little bit more focused. They've got a better coach in Mike Budenholzer. They've got the MVP in Giannis. They're a better team with a better coach, Papa Giannis.
And Detroit is not
Better
exactly
pizza.
the same intimidating environment as Boston
Yeah,
is
exactly
on the road.
right.
So I think the Bucks will be okay.
Look, if there's one little, thing we could sort of zero in on that maybe the Pistons could do well in this series, it might be take away the three-point shot a little. They're one of the better teams in just not letting teams hit and take a lot of three-pointers. We know the Bucks want it to rain from everywhere. They got a bunch of shooters out there. Maybe they're good at that. And a big part of that is Drummond's in the middle. It's like the Jazz with Gobert, right? He's back there. Well, you can stay out and you can challenge and try and take away the three. I think they're going to give it a go. We'll see how it fares. But
I'm looking forward to this. Giannis going in against a guy who's as big as him or bigger than him in Andre Drummond. That's going to be a fun matchup. Giannis was great against the Pistons in terms of his percentage there, even though he didn't score a ton. He set guys up. He should be fine. But that matchup will be fun to watch.
I feel so bad for Coach Casey. He's on the Raptors. He's coaching the Raptors for years and years, and they always keep running into LeBron James. Now he's with the Pistons. Who do they run into? Giannis.
Yeah.
That's got to suck. All right, let's keep it going here. Raptors Magic. Speaking of those Raptors, 2-7 matchup. Raptors, solid year. A lot of load management, but solid year. And Orlando in there, 42-40. They split the season series 2-2. Prediction time when it comes to Raps Magic. Everybody taking Toronto as the better team. Task Trey and Lee like Raps in 5. I'm a crazy Raptors fan. Yeah, I'm
So the
an
Raptors are
insecure
losing
Raptors
game
fan.
one.
Nervous?
So,
Raptors.
yeah.
No, I'm not nervous. The Raptors are a much better team, but this is the Raptors. And the Magic have been one of the better teams over the last 30 games or so. I mean, they have an identity now. That's play defense, slow it down, play Clifford ball, and it can win you games. The Raptors have way more talent than a Magic team and experience, but They could take a game or two here. I wouldn't be shocked.
The Raptors got too much sauce, though. Kawhi Leonard doesn't lose in the playoffs. He's got such a high winning percentage. I like the fact that Nikola Vucevic, the Magic's #1 option on offense, is matched up against Marc Gasol for the Toronto Raptors. That's a good defensive matchup for them. He should be pretty good against Vuce. And if that's sort of taken away, then the Magic's offense kind of gets thrown into flux. They don't really have a clear #2 option unless it's Terrence Ross bombing away against his old
He's had a
team.
great season, Terrence Ross. One other good thing for the Magic, they're coming in playing well. They're coming in on a roll, feeling confident. They've got an identity. They know what they are.
Yeah.
I just don't think offensively they've got enough against a very good Raptors defense. Again, with Kawhi and with Marc Gasol and with Siakam out there, I think that's where it's going to be tough for Orlando. They can maybe slow this series down and keep it low scoring. But,
I think we could see sort of
yeah.
like 90 to 89 games in this one.
Yeah, but
jump
I think again, if you want at the end of the game, you want Kawhi, you want Kyle Lowry, those guys who have been there a little bit more.
And that's the big thing for the Raptors, too, is they're going to get better just because Kawhi Leonard is going to play every game. He's going to play a ton of minutes. Kyle Lowry is going to play every game. He's going to play a ton of minutes.
Yep.
You play your best guys more, your team instantly gets better. The Terrence Ross game is lurking. That being said, the guy struggled against the Raptors this year. 37% shooting, 29% from the field. I think the Kawhi and Kyle show is going to be the difference here.
All right. Let's take one more break, guys. We got 2 series still to break down when it comes to the Eastern Conference. So don't go anywhere. Keep tweeting at us, #TheStarters, whether you agree or disagree with some of our picks. And when we come back, we'll preview our final 2 first-round series, including whether the Nets could shock those Sixers. Our next series, 76ers Nets in the 3-6 matchup. They split the season series 2-2. Let's get to our predictions for this one. Everybody taking the 76ers in 6-6-6-6. The big question was this: how will Embiid's knee hold up in not only this series, but potentially moving forward? Is that what this hinges on?
I think he is a guy who fights through injuries, so I'm not too worried. He basically fought through injury the second half of the season. I'm kind of worried about him moving out to the three-point line because the Nets want to shoot those threes, and Embiid likes to sag back defensively and play very good defensively. The Nets shoot the 5th most threes in the NBA. But to me, it's the D'Angelo Russell series. He's got the ability to get in there because Embiid sags back. A lot of little guards do some magical things against the Sixers, including D'Angelo Russell. I think it's up to him to make some magic in this series.
I was thinking about maybe looking at the Nets and trying for an upset pick in this series, but ultimately couldn't do it because I think Ben Simmons, even if Embiid isn't there, he can just get out there and run, and he can use his size and athleticism to get inside, and they've got shooters. The Sixers haven't been all that impressive too the last couple of weeks. I know they kind of haven't had a lot to play for, but they just haven't looked the best version of themselves. But I think Philadelphia, they've been there before, they know what they have to do. And for Brooklyn, this is like, oh, we're here, let's see what experience they can gain and how good they can get. But I don't think they're a better team.
Well, you say the Sixers have been there before, though, but this iteration of the Sixers together haven't at all. That's the weird thing with this squad. They played 10 games, like the starting lineup. You know, once they got Tobias Harris and obviously got Jimmy Butler before that, they just really haven't had a lot of time to play together. They're still super talented, but there are some question marks. They don't have a deep bench. You know, some people are wary of Coach Brown's decisions at times. And then Embiid, back to Embiid. He's a beast. There's no one on the Nets that can stop him. Jared Allen, no chance. Ed Davis, no chance. And what are you going to put Rondae Hollis-Jefferson on him? He's 6'7". Good luck. But if he's banged up or misses games, then maybe there is upset brewing here.
The Nets' best chance of an upset is Embiid not being 100% for this series, and then the Nets going crazy from three-point. You mentioned it, Tass. They're 5th in attempts, 5th in makes. The Sixers are just 19th. Brooklyn hits a ton of threes. They could go crazy in a few games here, at least keep things close, and then maybe D'Angelo Russell brings it home, gets the ice in his
Oh, yeah. He's been clutch for them this year when they've needed to hit some big shots. So this should be a pretty fun series to watch. That's the one thing about it.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see good, fun, high-scoring games. And, you know, it should be fairly close. And Brooklyn at home, that's a pretty fun environment to play in as well. They really get behind each other. The crowd there has been incredible in Brooklyn, which we haven't said for a lot of years.
Yeah, if they split in Philly, even at least grab one game in Philly, that game 3 is going to be crazy in the Barclays Center. All right, our final series to break down and predict, Celtics-Pacers. John Schumann, he called this one the underachievers in the Boston Celtics versus the overachievers in the Indiana Pacers. It's a 4-5 matchup. Celtics took care of business, taking the season series 3-1 if you care about that. Here's our picks. I got Celtics in 5, Tass and Trey, Celtics in 7, and Lee, Celtics in 6. So we're all saying Boston have enough to get it done, but they're going to be missing someone very, very important. Marcus Smart is going to be out for a while here with this torn oblique. how much does that impact or hurt the chances of the Celtics moving on? I guess not enough, ultimately, seeing the predictions from everyone.
Yeah, it's probably not as big of a deal for the first round as it will be going further into the playoffs. I think the Celtics have a bunch of guys that they can at least throw into Marcus Smart's role and give him a shot. Last year we saw that injuries heading into the playoffs were a blessing in disguise, really, for the Celtics. It clarified the roles, gave playing time to guys who needed playing time, and everybody was kind of able to focus their efforts on winning games. That hasn't always been the case with the Celtics this year. Perhaps Marcus Smart going down helps figure a few things out.
The Indiana Pacers defense has been really good even when Oladipo has gone down. But they're a good pick and roll defense, whereas the Celtics don't run a whole lot of that. So it's maybe going to be nullified somewhat in this series. I like what Indiana has got with Turner and Domantas Sabonis as well. He's been fantastic for them, and Bogdanovic has also been good. But I just think this is a series Kyrie Irving wants to really stamp his name on and sort of carry this team, because it's been chaotic in Boston. They haven't looked impressive at all. John Schumann summed it up perfectly there. But Kyrie has delivered in the playoffs, and I expect him to do that in this series.
He's one of the best clutch guys in the game. These games will likely be close, so shot making down the stretch is going to be an advantage for the Celtics.
Right. The game should go down to the wire because these are the Indiana Pacers. They're not going to let up. And I think the series should go down to the wire. I don't like the fact that Boston has to restart again with a new starting lineup. I agree, maybe it happens again in like 2018, but Marcus Smart was inserted a quarter way through the season into the starting lineup because he solidified things a little bit. And now this guy, who is the team leader in games played in 80 games, or was it 81 games? I've got it written down, 80 games, doesn't start the postseason. It's a new sort of thing for them, but we're going to see a lot of long games here, and shot making comes down to.
It's been a weird season, no doubt, for the Celtics, up and down. But right now, they're on a bit of an up, I would say, with the way Gordon Hayward's been playing over the last couple of weeks. This is the best he's looked. There is no doubt about that. Attacking, scoring, that's great. You got Aaron Baines as your big guy in the center now. He's usually starting, and he's been great defensively. They've got things going here. Now, the Marcus Smart, I get that, bit of a setback, but the Celtics look right now some of the best basketball they've played here in this up and down crazy season. So tough going here for them.
Yeah, you know Brad Stevens, though, is going to really miss that moment where he looks to Marcus Smart to make a play, create something when things aren't going so well. And they don't have a person to replace that. They have other guys who can score and other guys who can defend. But Marcus Smart brings something that is not really easily replaceable. So that is something they're going to have to watch for.
All right. So there you go. Those are our predictions for all 8 series. Let's hear from you guys on Twitter, #TheStarters. We talked a whole lot longer about each series on our Starters Drop podcast, which we recorded on Thursday. It's available to download on Apple Podcasts. You got iTunes there, Spotify, Google. It's up on our Starters website, so go check that out. And guys, we'll be back on Monday. Well, some of us will be back. I'm off to Boston.
You playing?
I'm playing the Celtics game. I'm running the marathon, Lee.
Okay.
So let's
good
watch
luck,
some
man.
playoffs.
Good
We'll
luck.
see you guys on Tuesday. We'll see you on Monday, guys.
Playoffs really are a marathon.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Tricky.